Well, I enjoyed this nice clean shop for about 2 days, I guess. And now I have a project already. I've noticed that old Murphy just seems to kind of follow me around sometimes. And you ever notice when you work on a rig, do a project, you work on a rig, something you didn't even touch will go haywire. I mean, it just almost never fails, on an old rig anyway. That's been my experience with old Murph. So, I fixed the leaks on this thing. The oil leak on the oil pan was leaking, and the rocker arm cover was leaking, and this little tube right here had a leak. This fitting was leaking a bit. So I undid that fitting, and I put some thread tape on there and put it back on, and it stopped the leak. And I started this thing up and ran it a couple times, and everything was just hunky-dory. And then I noticed the other day when I took this thing out for a spin, hate's a real strong word and I won't use it, but I really dislike this drop light a whole lot. It just, I could never get it to stay where I need it to stay. But anyway, when I took this thing out for a spin the other day, all of a sudden I noticed that I was losing some oil. I seen a little smoke coming off this block where it was getting warmed up. And I got it back to the house, and I looked and I discovered where the oil was coming from. It's where that little tube runs right into the block, and you can see the cylinders in this. This engine's kind of cool. This block is cool because you can see the cylinders cast right into it. And that tube goes right in between the cylinders, and what that does is it comes off of this block here, and that bottom tube goes up to the oil pressure gauge, and it's got good oil pressure. I mean, what it's supposed to have as far as oiling the little troughs in that oil pan so the dippers can pick it up. It's supposed to have about 15 pounds, and that's what it runs. But this little tube comes out of that block and goes up right into the block and goes up and oils the rocker arm. So what I'm going to have to do is determine, I'm going to get some brake clean and clean that up really good where I can see what's going on, and I'm going to have to find out if this tube is cracked. If it is, that could be a real deal to put in a new one. I don't know quite how it all works, but I'll get into it and find out. But there's no pressure in that crankcase, so just to plug that hole, if it's just oil coming out around that tube, I can fix that somehow. I'll just have to discover how it was they did that back in 1932. I don't know if they had little O-rings that they used then or not, but I'm going to investigate that. And if my rocker arm is oiling, then I'm okay. I can just stop that leak somehow. But now if that tube is cracked and I'm leaking oil out of that tube, then my rocker arm wouldn't be oiling, and that's a problem. Anyway, I'm not exactly sure when I'm going to get into it, but I got to get into it because that's really bugging me that there's something wrong. That's the only thing wrong with this thing. And, it's just something I didn't even do anything to it, and all of a sudden now it just developed a leak. But that's the way it goes. Anyway, I get a little time, I'm going to investigate that, and when I find out, you'll be the first to know what's going on. Thanks for watching.